coming up on See, Hear, Love.
Also the verse specifically that talks about the Lord seeks to satisfy us with good things. I used to think that meant, like a good relationship. God will satisfy me with a good relationship. And then just in this last month, I've just been realizing, no, that good thing is God.
You are seen, you are heard, you are loved by God. You're not alone, you're fully known, you are loved by God.
Well, thanks for joining us on another episode of See, Hear, Love. And this is a special one. I've got Joanna Fleur here because we're going to be talking about our new Next Gen web series and show that you're hosting. How do you feel about that, host?
I'm pumped. It was really fun to do this conversation and to listen and learn from Next Gen. Like, we're talking late teens into late 20s, and hear what their world is like, because it's different than mine and from yours.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because I think that's why we decided, we were talking about this and going, we do need to have a conversation of Next Gens, because we need to learn. What do you think, Joe, is the disconnect? Because sometimes older people don't want to really learn. They want to tell, show, kind of like say, this is how it was, this is what you need to do. But we're actually listening. You're listening.
Yeah, well, to quote a friend, what's the best part of listening to young people is listening to young people. We get to listen and to learn from them. But the world has changed, and doesn't mean that they don't need wisdom and experience from those who have gone before, but it is different than the world we grew, especially because of this digital experience that is so much a part of every part of our lives, and is the only life that they know. We would remember before digital. We remember before the internet came to our homes. But for the people we're talking to, they do not remember that time. And so it does mean that it affects all aspects of how they think about their future and their career, how they make money, how they do relationships and dating and education, how they think about God and the options of religions and opinions out there. It's all affected by that. So of course, we all need and they long for mentorship. But of course, we sometimes just need to be quiet and listen a little more so we can give better advice.
Now this show that we're going to actually feature here is about online and real relationships, which was really interesting for me, because really there is a block. I have a 14 and 17-year-old teenagers, and I was always like, can you really have real friendships and relationships with people that you've only met online? Because I didn't think so. And my teenagers were very clear, yes, you can.
Right.
And you go there. And I'm so thankful for that, Joe, because there is a disconnect in that way.
Yeah, studies seem to show that if you're about under the age of 40 now, or maybe 35, you believe you can have real, genuine, authentic friendships, relationships with people you've never met on the internet. You do think it would be amazing to meet them in person one day, but you can have a real friendship with someone, around the world.
So that's why it was so important for you to do this show, especially on relationships, because relationships are important for all of us, but it just seems so unique in the way Next Gen define and interact.
Well, and especially dating relationships. So we get into all that in this conversation, right? Romantic relationships, and how the internet has affected even how we meet romantic partners, and what might have been very creepy 20 years ago, or for the most desperate of people, now is the fairly normal way people meet, which is, online dating.
Okay.
And so we're going to talk about that and see how they feel about that whole world. And so there's still lots of room for wisdom from older people. Enjoy this episode, After Hours, where we talk about dating and relationships with Next Generation. Hello, my friends. Welcome to After Hours Conversations. This is a series of 5 conversations happening as part of See, Hear, Love for the season, where we're talking to the next generation. We're talking Gen Z and Millennials, and we want to hear from them. The whole point of this whole series is to hear from people like you. So I want to introduce you to who I'm with. I'm Joanna Fleur, and on my left we have Matt, we have Mikayla, and we have Hunter joining us for the conversation today. The topic of the day is relationships and dating. So it's It's a huge topic, and we're going to solve everybody's problems in 30 minutes or less, right?
Sounds good.
Maybe not, but we really want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think, what it's like going through friendships and dating relationships right now in 2021, 2022. So we're going to start that off with a little game. Please take a paddle, everyone. Please take a paddle, pass one down. What I need you to do, I'm going to give you a choice, and you have to decide which one is your preference. So A or B. All right, ready? A, share food. B, don't share my food.
Oh, I'm gonna share.
It also depends what it is.
Okay, fries. Share your fries, don't share your fries.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Don't share, he's not sharing with you.
I'll be honest,
Sure,
I
it's
forgot which
fine.
side was which.
Okay, phone in the bathroom, A, or no phone in the bathroom, B. Be honest.
This is a dating question?
Well, this is just a real question about
Okay.
life.
Okay.
Phone in the bathroom or no phone in the
Would
bathroom?
you text people from the bathroom? Yes, A,
Oh.
or no, B.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, everybody's bringing their phone. We know how it is.
Sometimes you're on a run. You got to schedule stuff.
Right, exactly.
All right, and the last one, say hello in person, A, slide into the DMs, B.
A.
A.
Oh, in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B might be more
Yeah.
practical in some cases,
Yeah.
but A is always the preferable.
More
All right,
sincere.
sure.
It's
Yeah,
more
exactly.
sincere.
It's face to face.
You need more courage, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little weird if you just show up randomly and they don't know you, but
Yeah, no.
you got to start somewhere.
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay, everyone, we want to hear also from people on the streets. We went out onto the streets of Toronto to hear from people about what they think about relationships and dating. So let's go there now. Have you made a new friend during COVID? Have you made a new friend in the last year?
Yeah. I would say I have. I think like using social media a lot more.
Yeah, I have.
And how did you make friends during COVID?
More through social media probably because we were like unable to go out anywhere, right? So that was like one of the only ways to do that, I think.
At work. Yeah, I work in the hospital, so.
There's definitely been apps that I've used that I wouldn't have used had we not been in COVID, just because being locked down, trying to be social, reaching out on different apps. So I think for sure there's some new friends.
Do you think like friends you make online, are they like real legit friends, or is it different than your friends in real life?
I would say that it's not the same as like real life friends, but like I think it could be like a start to like making a real friend, but like it depends if it remains online or not, kind of thing. So.
Girls just make friends.
Oh my god, we were talking about this
Yeah,
last
we were just
night.
talking about this. I think so. I don't think it's as common as most people would want, but I think it's a possible thing, yeah.
Hi, this is Becca, the associate producer of See Hear Love. See Hear Love is committed to reaching the next generation of millennials, like me, and Gen Z by meeting us where we are, on web, YouTube, and our See Hear Love podcast. Join us on YouTube for extended interviews and the After Hours web show, and listen to the podcast as Melinda goes in depth with our featured guests and shares her own personal thoughts. I hope to see you there as we listen and lean into the conversations that matter.
I'm here in my hometown of Burlington, Ontario, hanging out downtown in our village square. And as I walk these cobblestone streets, I realize that it has taken a village to ensure that See Hear Love's mission and vision is shared across Canada, around the world, that you are seen, heard, and deeply loved by God.
As a body of Christ, there is hope for us to grow and reconstruct together.
We couldn't do this work without you sharing life-changing stories of what Jesus is doing in people's lives, stories of hope and freedom and healing in areas that matter to me and to you.
I want to have the faith to believe that His plan is good, even when it's taking that detour that I don't really understand.
We have so much more to do and so many more people to reach with the life-changing message of Jesus. For a monthly donation of $25 or more, you can help us do just that. And we'll send you a special thank you gift of our favorite things. Go to seehearlove.com/give or call 1-800-265-3100 and join our See Hear Love Village today.
Okay, we are back in studio. We've got Matt, we've got Hunter, we've got Mikayla, and we want to have a discussion about relationships and dating today. We're going to try and conquer the whole thing. And one of the conversation topics I wanted to bring to you today that I think has some differences of opinions, and differences of opinions in Christian culture too. And we brought this question to the streets of Toronto as well. What do you think about, can guys and girls be friends? I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Can guys and girls be friends? Is that a real thing?
I think so. Like, well, I don't know. I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend for like 2 years, but like I was also interested in her a lot before those 2 years. So it's like I always really liked her, but I think you can just be friends with a girl. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Personally, I think so too. I think you can be friends with, like, well, for me, a guy for sure, because like friendship, I think, is like a good base to start a relationship too. So, but I'm not even looking for that for, like with my other guy friends. But I think it's good give or take, between each other. So I think it's great. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah,
sure.
but do you feel like with every person of the opposite sex that you maybe have to do the check, like, is this a friend or is this a possibility of something more? Do you feel like you can be friends and that's all it is, or you're always doing a little bit of a define the relationship?
I think that it just all depends on your personal boundaries. I think if you're in a relationship, obviously you have more boundaries with your friendships with the opposite gender than if maybe you weren't in a relationship. But also those boundaries should probably be consistent. So I think it just all comes from your intention and your heart posture and making sure that you're communicating that in that relationship and that friendship, so that there's no mixed signals and you're honoring them and honoring yourself in that.
Right, so you're saying it's more about the communication between guys and girls, that's where it can fall apart, as opposed to, I don't know, like a romantic tension. Yeah,
I think especially with reference to, in many cultures and many respects, the talking stage of a relationship.
Okay, say more about that, because you both laughed. What does that mean?
I don't know. It's funny because I feel like generations before us like would just date, but like now there's like this talking stage where it's really like, do we actually want to date?
And so talking means you're friends.
I don't even know what it means.
That's the thing about it. You really don't know what it means. Like it's just so muddled, right? And it's just it's a pre-dating before the actual dating or before claiming someone. That's basically what it is. But like it can be tiring I think, because it's like you're just going through the motions and it's like you come up empty at the end of it. You're just like, oh, okay, so it's not gonna work out. Wasted 6 months on that. Cool, move on. So for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of. It is like dating of some old-fashioned 1950s where they would do the same, they'd talk, but they just did it like in person in a, I don't know, an old-time milkshake shop.
It's like low-key like the courting of dating.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like really weird and traditional, but like that's kind of how you can put it.
It makes relationships a little more nuanced than they probably ought to be. But I think that clear communication and just being upfront about your feelings can really just cut through that talking stage and just help everyone feel a little more at ease.
Yeah. We're going to take a break right now, and we're going to come back with the panel after the good word, and we want to hear more from them about what church taught them about dating and relationships.
If you've been listening to our conversation today and you're thinking, I would really like to know more about the Bible or how to have conversations about Jesus and culture or leadership and justice, then our partner Tyndale University would be a great fit for you. They have a ton of courses and programs that would be right for where you are at today. So go to our website, seeherelove.com, click on the Tyndale logo, and start learning about things that really matter. It's not too late.
Thanks so much. My name is Nick, and today's good word is that you would only take fruity advice. So here's what I mean by that. When it comes to the world of dating, everyone has an opinion. Your mom, your friends, your pastor, every TikToker you see has some sort of information they're trying to pass on to you. So how do you cut through the noise and listen to only what is good or fruitful, or in this case, fruity? So Matthew 7:16 says this, "By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles?" The obvious answer being no. Good fruit comes from good trees, bad fruit comes from bad trees. So when you're navigating the dating world and you're navigating the building of your relationship, think about fruitfulness. Think about couples in your life that are exemplifying a sort of fruit that you want to see in your future life. Ask yourself questions about the couples in your life, like, do they still like each other? That's really important. Are they kind? Do they still show up to serve other people before themselves? Think about the relationship that you want to have. Look for that fruit. And when you've identified those couples or people, listen to them specifically. So couples have, a lot of married couples have been through a lot of different things. And so they've navigated a lot of circumstances. And so they're helpful when it comes to navigating our own relationship. You might be in a relationship that has kind of run its course, and they might be able to give the perspective to help you through that decision. They also might be able to help you in a tough relationship to know that you actually need to persevere a little bit, or ask the right questions, or have this specific hard conversation. The unpopular thing, the thing that nobody tells you, is that a lot of people also re-enter old relationships. And again, wise couple, fruitful relationships can help you know when it might be time to pick up and restore an old relationship. Either way, look for fruitfulness in the person teaching you, and that will be a Jesus-like way to cut through the noise and get really great advice.
We're back with the panel discussion. We have Matt, Mikayla, and Hunter here, and we're talking about relationships and dating. So the question I have to ask, of course, online dating apps, what do you think of them? You don't have to out yourself, but do people you know use them? What do you think?
I know a lot of people that use them. I'll out myself. I don't. I personally I like to know that my intention is like directed and towards one person, and that like I can think of that as being a nice thing to do for someone. While I know that apps are sort of just about volume, and then you narrow it down and you get to know people, sort of like the talking phase that we were talking about.
Yeah.
You have that with multiple different people. You're trying to get to know people, and you're probably going to get confused. Might remember something about the wrong person, and they've never done that before. So I think for my brain, mentally confusing, and I think that the intentions are different, especially in the Christian world.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think, Mikayla? How do you feel about online dating?
Well, actually, my cousin met her husband through online dating. Yeah, so I know it can work out, right?
Right.
So for me personally, I used it a couple times, but then I deleted it right away because I'm like, I have to meet the person. Like, I need to do a face-to-face thing. Like, I want to meet the person organically.
So what did church teach you, if you remember, youth group, church, culture? What do you remember were some of the things they taught you about relationships? If anything, was it a topic that was discussed? First, we'll start there, and then I want to see if you still agree with it. But what did church or your youth group culture teach you about dating? We'll start here.
Yeah, personally, I don't remember anything about dating. I remember getting like the sex talk and wait until marriage and stuff like that. But I never remember any sermons on dating. So if you were my pastor or youth pastor, sorry if you did. But yeah, I don't remember anything. I think just like listening to podcasts and stuff nowadays is how I've like learned and grown in that way. But all of them pretty much exclusively start with, so the Bible doesn't tell us too much about dating, but here's some nifty tips and tricks on like how to pursue someone in the world today.
Mikayla, you're saying, what do you remember from being taught in church culture?
Well, honestly, same with Matthew. I can't remember specifically, but I do remember like the sex talk for sure. And keeping yourself pure. Like that was like number one at church. It was like, you can't, go out and do all that, stuff on the side. You have to remain pure, you have to stay, in your faith walk. You have to, sometimes I know like at my friend's church, they have to have like a mentor walking through like a relationship with them. Like if they're with someone, they have to be there, talking to them and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I would say I learned some stuff about dating. Like I think there's one series, it was like an Andy Stanley series. And it pretty much it was the same vibe though, like very like, God, keep yourself pure, like, you talk about, I don't know if you guys heard this, like people take like a year off from like dating. Is that a thing?
I've never heard of that.
I don't know. Yeah. So like I don't feel like.
I mean, some people take like 20 years off. I mean,
but like there's like definitely there's this thing amongst like my peers where it's like, oh, I'm taking a year off for Jesus and I'm not going to talk to any girls, and then that's definitely a thing that was taught. I don't think I ever did it.
Yeah. So that's the last question that I want to get to. When you think of whether they taught you about it or not, do you feel like you agree? Like, is there anything that you're like, I'm going to leave that on the side, that doesn't work for me anymore? Or the opposite, there's something that I was taught that I'm going to carry through. Is there something you want to?
I don't know. I feel like the way that it's always been taught to me in church is very like, this is the right way to do it. And like, this is how God wants you to do it. And this is the only way you can do it. And like, I think that's kind of tough because it's like, puts you in the situation of like, how am I supposed to find someone that I like when I'm like, just totally like put my head in this one direction of how you do it. So I think it's interesting. And I think it's also influence from like small group leaders too, where it's like, this is how I dated and like, this is how you have to as well. So it's like really hard to kind of manage your influences when it comes to dating because there's just so many like ideas thrown at you that like, it's just hard to understand and know what's like right for you and like right in your relationship.
So there's some advice you're going to carry with you.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said too about this idea of mentorship, or you didn't say it in those words, but like you're looking to leaders and how did they do it, and that's impacting how you're doing it. Yeah. What about? I mean, as you sort of said, not as much teaching on it as you remember, but are there some principles you think in Christian culture that you'd like to throw away, or some that are really important to what you're doing now?
I think that similar to a lot of church traditions, I know looking at Catholicism specifically and the liturgies that they go through, when I was younger, I had no place for that in my life. I didn't really understand it, but as I grow in my faith and in my journey with God, I see so much more depth and meaning and intimacy with God through those liturgies that I think a lot of the ways that the church teaches hold similar values, the way that people have gone before me and have said these things and have learned these things for themselves. And I think when we're young, we can't quite understand it. Like the idea of trusting God with everything and being completely satisfied in Christ. Also the verse specifically that talks about the Lord seeks to satisfy us with good things. I used to think that meant, like a good relationship. God will satisfy me with a good relationship. And then just in this last month, I've just been realizing, no, that good thing is God.
Wow.
And when we're satisfied in Him, fully in that, then we can be a blessing to other people. And ultimately, I think that the way that the church has gone about it has often been mistaken in a lot of ways, but not out of the wrong place. I think the younger generation just needs to be taught a little bit more on like, what do these things look like? These big terms that you throw around, trust in the Lord, all of these things. How can the church better teach young people what that looks like in their own lives?
Right.
And I think that will help carry forward dating and relationships and just everything generally in the church.
Yeah. Okay, this group has said a lot, but what we want to do now is pause and we want to go to Melinda Estabrooks, the host of See Hear Love, because we want to hear some reflections on what this group has said. We want to distill down what has really stood out to her. So let's go to Melinda now.
Joe, I am so giddy because this is like our first of the web series.
Welcome to After Hours Conversations.
I know, and you just kick it off right with relationships and dating. Like, let's just go there.
Let's do it.
I know. One thing that I'm like,
what have you learned? What did you notice?
Yikes. So the biggest question that kind of like stood out for me was where Mikayla, Matt, and Hunter were like, yeah, I didn't really learn a lot about dating in the church.
Yeah.
And even within in their home. And that really was like, yikes. Because if we're not, as parents or mentors or leaders, teaching, listening, guiding next generation in dating and relationships, then who is going to do that for them? And
TikTok.
we know who that, exactly. TikTok, YouTube clips, relationships. And I think that was really, it was like, Matt was like, I can't remember anything that was taught to me at school about dating. And so here we are going, okay, so next generation is growing up. they're not getting good foundation, or even just like, hey, this is how we treat one another, talking about consent.
Because we weren't taught either, maybe.
Yeah. And whether it's just consent, but talking about healthy relationships and all of that. So immediately, relationships and sex were all like, like shrouded in shame, when something that was sort of in, behind the scenes, and we didn't talk about
and
it.
how to date, how to ask someone on a date.
Exactly, and how to be, and how to have even just like conversation, how to relate to one another, what questions you should ask, or how do you even, it's not vet, but how do you say, actually, even before we start dating, I know this person really isn't not the person to date, all of that. And so I think for me, Joe, as I have 2 teenagers, especially for me growing up in the church, these conversations were so, embarrassing. And I think we need to get past that as Gen Xers and Boomers so that we can have these healthy conversations with the next gen.
And as always, like continuing to listen. What are they saying?
Yes.
What are we learning from what they're expressing of their experience? If we haven't lived it, then let's listen.
Exactly.
And thanks so much for listening with us.
Thanks.
Well, we have had quite the day talking about dating, relationships, romance. Obviously, there's so much more that we couldn't cover, but I just love what you've said. You've distilled down some really important things. I hope people are listening. I hope people feel heard, that they find themselves in what you are saying. That's part of the point of these after-hour conversations. So thank you so much, Hunter, Mikayla, Matt, for being here with us. For everyone watching, thanks for watching. We want you to share this, find us online, find us on social media. Wherever you follow things, you can follow us for more of these conversations all season long. Thanks for watching After Hours Conversations.
Wow, Joe, you did such a great job.
Thanks.
You did a really great job. And I loved us in the kitchen. It was really chill. And
well, and I'm so glad you could be there to listen, although you weren't necessarily in the conversation. You heard, and that's the point. You were listening and you were hearing the whole thing. And that's really my encouragement, too, to Gen X and to Boomers who are watching this episode, to listen and to learn.
Yeah.
There's so much that has changed, but the core things are the same. People want love, connection, meaningful relationships, and we need wisdom from people who've gone before us. How to navigate that whole world. And, please pray for them, pray for us as we navigate it.
And Joe, I think you're like ready for this. Like, you are a millennial, but I just love that your heart is for the next generation.
Yeah.
And sometimes millennials get a bad rap, like, oh, they're just about themselves, but I really am inspired and encouraged by you that you're really wanting to connect with next generation and lead them well and listen to them.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a joy to be part of it, and I'm just so grateful for the privilege of having these conversations. So thanks for the opportunity.
Amazing, amazing. Well, if you want to watch the full After Hours conversation on online and real relationships and learn like I did about next generation in this area, go to our See Hear Love YouTube channel. You'll see the full web series and show. You can hear their show on our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And yeah, Joe, you'll be writing a blog. There's going to be a lot of like sort of support resources and material for this, because I think we all need to learn.
That's right.
We all need to learn. Final thought, Joe, just as far as in relationships like this, the Jesus part of it all. Like, we can't forget Jesus, but how do you bring him into sort of this confusing world of relationships and digital too?
Yeah, well, I loved what one of the panelists, Matt, talked about with how he thinks about his relationships as a follower of Christ, that as he's trying to be more like Jesus and work that out in his relationships, that's the thing we all need to do, whatever our age, and the thing we need to encourage and pray for and build into other people. Yeah. And so, Jesus is in all of our relationships, but what if we actually, wanted to be more like him and offered him to other people, whether dating or in friendship, whatever it may be, that's the opportunity we have to be like Jesus, to know him more, and to offer him to other people.
Amazing. Best way to end the show. And always know, as we end, and Joe, again, such a great job, always know this, that you are seen, you are heard, and deeply loved by God. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to check out After Hours Conversation. We'll see you again.
See Hear Love thanks our partners who make this show possible.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a supporter-funded, nonprofit organization and member of the Canadian Centre for Christian Charities. Thanks to faithful people like you, we are able to continue producing See Hear Love. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2, or visit crossroads.ca to learn more about our programs.